Glad to have you here today. My name is Sharon Capetta. I'm the Director of Development at the Community Foundation, and one of my responsibilities is marketing the Great Give, letting the world know that May 3rd and 4th, 2016 is the day to go online and support your favorite nonprofit in Greater New Haven and nonprofits. So we have a marketing team at the Community Foundation, and actually the three of us are here today, Jackie, Tricia, myself, and I wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing this year to promote the Great Give and to supplement and support your efforts to direct donations to your individual organizations. Last year, as you know, there were over 9,000 gifts during the Great Give, and we were delighted to have about $1.2 million was raised and went right out the door to nonprofits, which is exactly what we want to see. This year we decided to be brave, and we're being bold, and we are setting our goal at $1.5 million. So your help is appreciated. We want to reach our goals to help you reach yours. We're looking forward to supporting you in your efforts. I'm going to turn it over to Jackie.
There were two people that did not get introduced in this, and one of them is sneaking out of the room. Stephanie Chung, my colleague from the Community Foundation, who makes all these happen, and Robert Scheiman, who runs the wonderful Cultural Commons, Whitneyville Cultural Commons that we are in today. Great space. Thank you for making the space available to us and for making it so comfortable for us. I'm going to turn it over to the O'Donnell Company for Diana and Eileen O'Donnell, who have gone above and beyond in putting together this package in a short time to turn around so that you can have the maximum time that you need to create a great campaign for the Great Give. Eileen, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming today. And our goal is to help you raise as much awareness for your organization and get as many dollars in the door so you can do what you do. So what we'll be doing is for about the first half, we'll be going through some best practices. We'll take a couple minutes, go through one, and then you'll take a couple minutes at your tables and work together to jot out some ideas. You have a work plan. So this will tell you which page to work on when we get to that. And when you do that, the things you write down don't have to be perfect. It's important to kind of share with each other. And so you're kind of seeing what each other do. And then we might go around and if we have time, have each table, have one person stand up and say, here's what I've learned that was positive, or here's an example that I know of. So we're going to jump right in, and I'll move quickly so we get through as much as possible, and there will be a time for questions as well. So our first thing that we like to look at is our audiences. Who are we trying to reach? Where are they? What do they read, listen to, watch, socialize with? What's important to them? What do they base their decisions on? We want to know as much as we can about our audiences. The more we know about how they think, the more we can get into their minds and figure out what's important to them, where they are, and how we're going to come across to them. It doesn't hurt to know who you're typically most successful with, who you've had success with before, and then if you have an ideal audience, where if you found any audience that would be a good donor for you, here's who it would be, and that might not always be the ones that you're most successful with. We also like to look at, are there any audiences that we've overlooked in any way? When we look at audiences, we also then say, well, we're looking at the folks we want to reach. We then also have to look internally and say, well, who is our organization? What's different about us? Why does it matter? And how does it relate to our audience? Are there stories, facts, people that illustrate it best? And another way to look at that is, if your organization did not exist, what would be missing from the community? What is that part that you're filling that nobody else can do? That's your unique value that you're bringing. And what resources might you need to figure this out? Would you pull a couple, if you don't have your value prop and why you matter and what's different worked out, who do you need in the room to figure that out? Because we have so little time, it's good to have this very concise. So our next step is really just to take a few minutes at your tables and look at the page 1 of your work plan and talk amongst yourselves and figure out who are your audiences, and there's some questions right in there. So like we were just talking about, we're looking at what you do, what your organization does, and what matters to your audience. And in that overlap, where those two things overlap, that's where our best messages are going to be. So if we're talking about a bunch of things that we do as an organization and they're not really what matters or what people base decisions on, then we're just going to miss that connection. So we always want to find that overlap portion. When we do an analysis, we look at what is important to our audiences, and then what do we do, and where that intersection is. So on our next slide, these are just a couple more kind of best practices. Make it quick. You know, today everybody's got, you know, they don't just have their cell phone, they've got the TV on, they have a laptop, they're being pinged and Facebooked and texted, and you know, they have all these different things coming at them all the time. Some of them that they've opted into and some that they have not. So we typically say you have 1 second to buy the next 3. That means you have 1 second to grab attention, and if you do a good job of hooking in your audience, you might have 3 more to quickly bring forward benefits. It's that quick. If you can hook them, then you have to quickly get those benefits or that value that you deliver forward. Otherwise, they're probably lost. That's okay. You want to tie in your objective whenever possible. So if at any point you can say, here's where we're headed, we're going this way, would you like to come along? That's always better. If people can see where the vision is, they'll have a little more trust to take a step out with you. Being specific, what are you offering? You know, it's really easy when we have a transaction where a person comes in and buys a Diet Coke. They exchange some dollars and they get something very tangible back. We can't necessarily do that, but some of the things that you offer are very tangible. So we want to figure out what are those tangibles, what are those values, and try and quantify them and put them forward. Along the same lines, we want to make things relevant to our audience. I'm driving down the road, I'm busy. Why should I stop and read this? Why does this matter to me? So if it's about children, well, if I have a child, that might relate to me. If it's about health and I'm dealing with a health issue, that might relate to me. We have to make this relevant to people's lives. We can do that by being funny or silly or heartfelt or with stories or with facts that matter. We have to make it easy. If it takes too much time, we lose our audience. It's got to be pretty quick and simple, and we have to show where the money goes. Again, you know these are things that you're doing all the time, but any way that we can show that we took this money and here's where it went, that's going to be a good thing. We have here a couple little examples to show what we mean, and that is, so at the top we're just saying, you know, you're starting a conversation with people. You're not just asking for money. You're going to start a conversation. You have facts you can put forward. You have stories. You can use terminology like, you know, the power to, or build something, or be a part, change something. This helps build some energy. We want to connect the donor with the goal and the value or benefit delivered. So $50 to change the lives of 50 children. It's very specific. Just an example. Be a part of the future of healthcare. One performance, many minds open. So you're being very specific about here's what's being given and here's where we're going, or here's what's being given and here's what's going to happen with those dollars. You're inviting in your audience along with you. If we're ready, we'll move on to best practice number 3, which is to engage your board. Board members are volunteers. They're typically very busy. We want to make best use of their time. So be clear on your goals for the board. It's always smart. I'm sure many of you already do this. Put together a smaller task force to drive the effort forward and energize everyone. Get input so there's ownership. You have a lot of really bright minds on boards, and it's great to get brainstorming going or get their input and ideas up front. Oftentimes, if someone comes up with an idea, they feel a little more ownership and interest in its success. So it doesn't hurt to get that input up front. Make it clear and quick. Be specific and provide tools. So anytime we're asking the board members, because they are busy, it never hurts to really simplify things and say, please send this out, and anything you can attach or put right in there for them to do, that's going to be helpful. Give enough time and direction for them to do things, what's important or motivates them. It never hurts to know what motivates any of our audience or what's important to them. They need thanks and appreciation as well. Ask them to tap into their networks. Some have businesses that have Facebook pages, they have email contact lists that you can ask them, and many will be happy to do that if you make it very simple and concise for them and give them all the pieces that they need and the time to do it. They might have adult children that can lend a hand with social media, but they typically have great networks, businesses where they can put up posters, et cetera. Report on progress and results to them. So whatever the expectations are, let them know how they're doing or what they still need to achieve or any tasks that are outstanding. Make it fun, and of course, always say thank you. So for our best practice number 4, the idea is to set goals. We always want to know where we're headed. With limited resources, we always have to look realistically at those resources and say, what can we truly manage and do a good job at? So we want to know, what will we work towards? What is a realistic goal? And can you tie it to a need? Part of what we're doing is we're working on the Great Give. And so as we're working on the Great Give, we end up asking and asking and asking and feeling like we're just asking, and then getting caught up in the ask and not the give portion. So anytime we can say, well, what are we giving to? Can we talk about where are we headed? Are we going to give towards the community this new program? Are we going to give some performance that people that wouldn't have been able to see it can? Here's what we're working towards. Here's how we're giving. Please join us in this great give, and if you give us this, we can get there with your help. So just so we don't forget that we're working towards this giving, that you are giving. You're not just asking, you are giving towards something, and make sure that comes forward. Anytime you can tie to a need that is your specific, that you're tapping into for your tangible. There are financial goals, awareness goals, engagement goals, etc. So you can measure on all those things, and all those things are important. Ultimately, you want to bring dollars in so you can do what you would like to do, but starting to build relationships is important to get folks there. How will you measure? How often will you report? And what do you need to achieve this? Who's responsible for this? This is an important component. Okay, we're going to jump into our best practice number 5. So the idea is that we should max out the tools that we have available to us, which are many. So things like your website, email or e-news, if you're already putting out e-newsletters, social media, including video, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, paid, organic search, collateral, broadcast out of home, sending out press releases. There's a ton of things that you can do. The question is, what are going to be the right ones for you to use? Because you want to put your time into the right things and where your audience will be. So if you could go to the other one. What do you already use that you can apply? If you're already using email campaigns really successfully, that might be the right place to put most of your effort. If Instagram targets, 15-year-old females, that may not be who you're targeting. You have to look at these social media tools. Just because we can doesn't mean we should, and choose carefully and correctly for your audience. Really look at who the demographics are of that tool that you have. Anytime you have your own list, that's fantastic. That's very targeted, but you also want to expand a little bit. So are there any new tools that you can add? Can you add the Give Greater message to any existing collateral or e-media? And who and what will work on this from your team? It's good to consider even your extended resources. So you have your board, business people, their social media, their emails, tie-ins with partners. Who can you partner with? Other not-for-profits or businesses? Are there events and promotions that you're doing anyway that you can pull in the Great Give marketing along with that? Direct mail, newsletters, appeal letters that are going out. However you can piggyback on existing communications, always a good thing to combine those. Get creative, school flyers for kids' grammar schools or school newsletters that are going home. Facebook takeover, ask everybody to replace their big image for one day. It's not a lot to ask, just one day, right? So whatever you can think of and be creative on. Okay, we're going to jump into best practice 6. Get social. Social media is a great outlet for getting our word out. Many of these tools are free or very little money, but we know they take a lot of time to invest in. So we want to think about what social platforms that you'll use. Consider using only those that best target your audience, as we spoke about. Use what you can staff or have experience with. Make it fun or heartfelt. And sometimes you do have to invest to get a return, not just with your time, but sometimes boosting posts or running little ads, things like that. So there's a lot to think about with social media and how to make it a cohesive campaign. If you have your broad strategy of here's where we're headed, here's what we're trying to do, we're trying to get 100 people to give this much money, then as you're going along, you'll be able to pull in those messages and flex those messages a little bit. If you have one core strategy, you can have some flexible messages around that and use social media well. So we want to start a conversation, not just ask. Try different things that tie in with your messaging strategy. You could do something like 5 things you might not know about, or meet the one behind the XYZ program. 10 people that made a difference for XYZ. The blank blank quiz, see how you fare. XX% will never get to see this if we don't take action. Any way that we can make things quick or make them engaging and very relevant and somewhat tangible. Things with numbers and quizzes and lists tend to work very well and capture attention and get high clicks. On the next slide, this is a system that we somewhat use when we want to drive behavior change. People are very used to their habits. They do the same thing pretty much every day. Most of us take the same route to work. We go to lunch at the same place. We don't even want to take the risk of change to go to a different lunch place. What if we don't like it, right? We know what we're going to get when we follow a certain path. So changing behavior, like what you're doing, it's hard to get someone out of their habit and to do something different. So we have a certain set of things that we follow in order to try and get that behavior changed. First, we know we have to capture and grab attention like we spoke about. We have to do this quickly, and we have to do it in a very compelling way. The second thing we have to do is relate with our audience. In that phase is when we can actually guide some decision making. So basically, everything is a transaction. If I'm asking you for anything, whether it's look over here or think differently, you have to get something out of it. There's an exchange that occurs. There's an exchange that occurs when I give $5 for a soda, and there's an exchange that occurs when I say, imagine a world where there's peace, because you now said, all right, I'll do that, and it looks nice, so I had a benefit from it. So some of these exchanges are very tangible, and some we have to try and make tangible because they're a little more ethereal. A benefit can be a laugh. It can be learning something. It can be imagining something. It can be being a part of something. Being a part that's what everybody actually ultimately wants, is to be a part or be included. So you have huge attributes that you can use if you tap into them. In that relating portion, that is where we start to build a relationship. So let's say I want to say, hey, can you give me $100? And that person doesn't trust me. They don't know me. Why would they give me that $100? Really, that's a big risk scenario, right? Why would they take that risk? But if I've related to them, if I've said, if you click here, I'll show you this article and it's going to tell you something. And then they click and they see the article. They've taken a few seconds of their time. So I've grabbed their attention. I've asked them to just invest this little teeny bit. And in doing so, when they did that, they said, well, I invested a little time and I did learn something and nothing went wrong. What they said would happen, happened. And it was overall positive. It's that quick, it's minute, it's all subconscious. But we've built one little iota of trust. So how many of those do you think you need before you can ask for that $10, $50, $100? You can't get someone way out on the ledge right away, typically. You've got to have a couple little engagements. And in that period is where then we get to start guiding their decision making. We're just starting to affect their decision making. So that's the period that with a 6-week plan, you have a chance to build that relationship, engage a little bit, and start to guide decision making. In the engagement portion, that's where we're promoting actions. So we will always want to ask them to do something after we grabbed your attention, and then we related with you. We want to ask you to do something, because in doing so, and it should be small to begin with. It's not a big effort. It should be small, but we always want to drive some kind of action. Read, think, imagine, click, whatever it is. This starts to build an active relationship and gets them ready to take some larger action at some point. And one other thing that Sharon had brought up earlier, which is important, is that if you're putting a lot of effort into social media, you can build awareness, you can build relationship. Ultimately, you are trying to get folks over, get their email, capture their email address, get them over to your website where your donate button is, get them to the Great Give. So just keeping them there isn't enough. We've got to compel them, if this is the campaign, to give at some point. So that's going to be your task a bit. Start thinking about how you get, if you only have a bunch of folks on Facebook that you're engaging with, how do you, are they people that are already on your list, or how do you start converting them over a little bit, or ask them to do something? What you're asking them might be, hey, did you visit this page on our website where you have a form they can fill out? So you have their email address, so you can say, please, help us with our Great Give. Now that we've gotten through our best practice section, take a few minutes to go around and maybe hear some examples of what you've done in the past, or anything positive that you've come up with at your tables or working together, or that you heard. I thought perhaps maybe, Marcia, I don't know if you would mind giving us some examples that you've seen.
We have used all of primarily Facebook and our vertical response as social media, and a lot of tweeting, and come up with the plan. But again, reaching the new people, grabbing the attention and relating and engagement, because if we have repeat givers from last year, and this has been one of my questions, is how to keep the Great Give people not just a $25 gift every year and I'm just giving it, but to really keep them involved in the organization. We need to show them either that special project or exactly what you're going to learn from this article and build that piece. So we almost have that obligation to say, okay, well, you did this last year. Look at what it's done for us last year, and this is what we're doing now.
Hi. Well, we sort of we have a captive audience, which is kind of nice for us. It's because we're a theater. So in this block of time every year, we do our big musical. So I just put an insert in our program that says, save the date. The Great Give is coming. Very briefly, what the Great Give was. It does have the Great Give website on it. And then in our next show, we have one more before the Great Give, so we'll do the same thing with a little bigger pitch. But video has been very, very, very helpful for us. So we create really simple videos using phones. We tried to get fancy schmance and get a big camera in, but it wasn't getting us the right feel. So what we found was just having kids in their dorm rooms take a video of themselves and saying what the doing theater with us has meant to them, or engaging our donors to share their stories about why they support. We got really great participation from our board, and we did our own matching pool last year, which was beneficial to us too. Some matching prizes and some matching dollars that were internal for us.
Like board members, or who?
Yeah, board members, and then some particular donors that had consistently donated a larger amount of money. And we asked them if they would pre-pledge that money to us before the Great Give, and let us know that if we raised another $1,000, would they donate
really
$1,000
great
during the Great Give?
So those were expected dollars. You just shifted them to say they could be matched dollars.
Correct.
That's fantastic.
Correct. Yeah. So that's just some of the stuff we're doing.
I think those are great points too, with video and other things. The production and everything, it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, sometimes having things produced, it loses some of the authenticity. It's the heartfelt messages that are really from the people that are affected or the people that are working, that the audience is not doing that every day. They want to be in touch with that. They want to know good things are happening and things are changing. Hey, I'm going to work every day. I'm exhausted, and what am I bothering with this? And then you hear there's someone doing some good work. How can I support that? I want to know things are going the right way. So I think that's wonderful.
The other thing that we did in the Valley was to do a Valley-wide video. So we asked other nonprofits in the Valley to participate in the video with us.
So
So
partnering.
that helped too. So, you know, all of us were sort of showcased. And then at the end, it said, you know, support your local nonprofits. And we were all listed. And
Wow.
that was really great too.
So getting a group together and not necessarily like, not doing all the same thing. You had a varied group of, that's nice. All right, guys, we're going to now move to our big countdown of the actual plan, how your plan should work, what you should be doing during what weeks. And these are overall recommendations. I was just talking to Fran, and whatever your plan is, the most important thing is to have the plan. That's going to help use your resources the most efficiently and effectively. So whatever you decide to do, if it's very strategic, if it's careful, if it's well thought out, it's going to be more effective. So how you use your board, what you ask from them, what you ask them to invite. You know, Fran just mentioned that she said our board members are actually making calls and sending out emails, inviting people to reach new audiences, the question that we were talking about. So these are very specific tactics that they've worked into a plan that has a time and a date, and people know exactly what's expected from them when, which is fantastic. So that's kind of our goal for the next portion, not necessarily to nail it down exactly right now, but to start listing some of the ideas you have or some of the things you might do and in which portion of this 6 weeks you might do them in, and who and what you need in order to do them. So what I'll do is I'll just run through week by week some of the recommendations of what to do when. So I'll talk for a little bit and then give everybody time to work on and ask questions and compare notes, et cetera. So our first week of our plan, which is our week 6, March 22 to March 28, we're going to determine staff, board, volunteer teams. You're going to identify all your human resources that you have. Meet and complete your work plan. Get something nailed down that everybody agrees upon. It's a great time to get input. Again, one thing we were just talking about was anytime you're asking for input, even from donors, you're including them in the process, then they have more interest in the success of the outcome. Create printed materials if needed. They have a longer lead time, so this is the right time to come up with little cards or print your posters. Decide on prize challenges you pursue from the Community Foundation. And you have a sheet, right, Jackie, that they're all listed on. And if you have questions about them, Jackie's here to explain, or Stephanie. Get all your email, your mail, your contact list, your donor list, get all of your lists prepared and cleaned up and ready to go. Download the marketing toolkit from the Community Foundation website. That's givegreater.org. You can add your Great Give logo to your signature at that point in your email, add your save the date to the website and your e-newsletters, provide Great Give updates at meetings, decide if you'll have an event or not, or if you already have an event where you can piggyback with this. Identify not-for-profit and business partners that you can work with or that will be willing to help you market. Create a staffing plan for May 3rd or May 4th. Make sure you have someone manning your social or your phones or whatever you're working on. Week 5, March 29 to April 4, you would be planning how you're going to thank your donors and continue the engagement afterwards. Share givegreater.org profile, yours. Implement donor outreach plan steps. Print mailings can go out or be prepared. Share participation. Let everybody know, your neighbors, if you're going to events, make sure they know you are participating in the Great Give. Week 4, April 5 to 11. You can start communicating. You can start doing a little bit of soft marketing via social, email, web, etc. This is your point where you want to just start grabbing attention. Like Jackie mentioned, not just right out of the box asking, you want to get to know people, start teasing, maybe some little teasers. Share your goals or your vision of where you're headed. Just start hinting at where you're going with things. Create a board task list and make sure you have assignments clear. Send invites to the day of events that you have. Schedule key meetings with donors so you can get your pre-commitments. Week 3 in our countdown, April 12 to 18. You can customize your email templates finalize your social schedule, your content. If all of that is done up front, it won't be as taxing or heavy. You won't need as heavy resources just during the key time. So if it's all planned and you know exactly what's going out when, it's not going to feel like such a strain. Schedule key meetings with donors, finalize partnerships with businesses and other nonprofits. And if you do tend to contact the local media or send out press releases, it's a good time to do that. Week 2 in our countdown, which is, now these are the two, week 2 and week 1, right leading up to the Great Give, is where you're really going to put on your blitz. This is right up to the event. So you want to amp it up on your social and your email. You want to really start the conversation. Talk about your work, share facts, share stories. You can do targeted phone calls to donors. You can do a kickoff event and talk to donors. Put flyers in area businesses and elevators. The challenge begins at this point. Is that correct, Jackie? There's a specific day.
There'll be a promotion 2 weeks before that will help drive people to the site, similar to the Is Yours the One from last year. We don't have the details of that, but it will be 2 weeks before that will drive folks in.
So week 1, we're doing more blitz work with our marketing. Make sure you have your donor data link. Continue your social media blitz. Add reminders to board members as needed. Provide progress reports of how you're doing, how you're progressing. Use your Great Give toolkits. Finalize your day of plans, your staffing, the roles of who's going to do what, and schedule all your social media posts. Day of, May 3, May 4, kick off at 8 a.m. with a bang. Set a goal for number of donors during the first hour. Have some very concrete goals that you're trying to achieve. Get out into the community, attend events, spread the word, check in with board and volunteers. Be active on social all day. Check your donor link hourly and thank donors via email or social. It was mentioned in the last workshop that some donors do want to remain anonymous, and for those, they will, you will not get their name. But Sharon felt that eventually they do come out and you will get to know them, but we respect their privacy in the meantime. Now, after the Great Give, day after, you're going to kind of wind down a little bit, and you want to start implementing your donor thank you plan. Who will get calls? Decide, at what level. Will some people get calls? Will some get letters? Emails, cards, mentions on social media can mean a lot to people or businesses. Send thanks to partners and businesses. Give an update to your board, your staff, your volunteers, your network, and congratulate them. And consider a post-give thank you event as well to really celebrate. So now we've gone through the general things that can happen week by week. And in your work plan here, pages, I think it's 8 through the end, are sort of these worksheets for each week to help you start thinking through what should happen in what week. We also have a document that's a timeline, and this is another way to look at it. So if you're looking at the work plan and it helps you to just list out, here's roughly what I'm doing in each week. Just a mention for those of you who are newer to this process, you might say, I'm going to have a limited commitment of what we can do and limited staff. So I know that we can probably send out 3 or 4 emails. I know on the day of I'll be able to do a couple Facebook posts and this and that. Maybe you don't have a huge plan yet, but you can do certain things. For the things you want to do, and hey, I have this audience and that audience, and I know I can do these 3 things and those 2. The timeline's a great way to say, okay, I know I can send an email, so I'm going to send one each week and put those, just the big broad strokes that you'll do. I know I'll send a printed thing out there, and I know I'll put those 3, and I know I'll hang posters there. So if you start putting those big things down, and here's my little audience, then on your work plan, maybe you fill in more detail and kind of flesh it out a little later, but just start thinking of your most primary steps that you can take if it's your first year or you're newer to it. Sometimes it's okay to start with the most basics and then kind of build it from there of the stuff you have to do. Even if there's a new audience that you're focusing on, you have stuff that you're already doing, but hey, what do I want to do for one particular audience that's new? Take it piece by piece and then round out who will I need to do that? What is it going to look like? What is it going to say? What's my messaging going to be? So just a thought. And then,
Can I
go
jump-
ahead,
I
Jackie.
can jump
Yes.
in on one thing? Because you also have in this timeline an opportunity, if you happen to have an event. Now, Fran has events probably 4 times a week for the next few weeks, so she's got great opportunity. You may have something scheduled between now and the Great Give that is not every day. So you may have an opportunity on that to drop that on your timeline and figure out how you can maximize the group that you're going to have assembled on that event day toward the Great Give. I'll tell you, one of the best practices, one of the tricks around the country is that they find that if you get someone to commit to making a gift in advance, I think the percentage was something like 80% will actually follow through on that gift. So if you're doing something on March 25th and you can hand out a postcard and ask people to sign up to give, get them to give you your email and get them to give you that commitment that they're going to give. You don't have to get the dollar amount. You can then email them the day before the Great Give, remember your pledge, and then they're much more likely to actually, and then you want to get them again on the day of the Great Give. So use your events that you have coming to distribute a magnet, to distribute something that's going to get them back on May 3rd. But consider on that timeline of the 6 weeks where you are. And then if you know you're going to have those magnets distributed on March 25th, when do you have to back up and print your collateral? When do you have to print those materials? When do you have to get them designed? When do you have to do the pre-R on them? So go backwards on your timeline and fill in the details, but lay down the landmarks first.
I think it's a good point. Even any of your existing communications, existing events, all the things that you would normally be doing anyway, and then if they're on there, then you can see how each one can be used.
That donor data link will be sent to you about a week before, a few days before, from Stephanie. Watch for Stephanie's email. It is a specific link for your organization to get your donor data live. If you click on it when it's sent to you, there will be nothing because the campaign is not up and running. But at 8 o'clock on May 3rd, that goes live, and as soon as a person confirms a gift, their name and email and gift amount, unless they've chosen to be anonymous, appears for you. Use that as an opportunity to say, look, John W. gave us a gift of $25. Thank you, John. Put it on social media. If you're a friend on Facebook, put it on Facebook. Let them share it. I gave a gift of $20. Use your board. I gave a gift of $25. I gave a gift of $50. Who can join me in this? I'm part of the Great Give. I'm a great giver. I think there's something in the toolkit that says something like I'm a great giver. Send that to people. Send them a gold star. Send them something that is relevant to your organization as a reward, as a, sort of a visual reward that allows them to then retweet, repost, get the word out for you.
So good luck to you all. Thank you for coming tonight. And we will see you soon, hopefully at the after party.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, and Diana. Thank you very much for the workshop. It was really helpful for all of us. As we are continuing to be a resource, you can always reach us at the foundation, so please do. Thanks for coming.